On the high street of Richmond, southwest London, a certain type of wealth moves quietly. It is a world of million-pound homes, designer shops, and luxury watches. For Oliver White, a dedicated and bright 27-year-old shop manager, working at 24/7 Kettles was a dream job, a front-row seat to that world. But on a sunny Saturday in May 2024, that world turned deadly. Oliver was the victim of a brutal, brazen heist. Robbers stole over £1.38 million in high-end watches. That alone is a major crime story. But the real tragedy unfolded the next day. Because what happened after the robbery, the agonizing pressure he faced from his own associates, would cost Oliver White his life. This isn't just a story about a theft. It's a terrifying look at what happens when organized crime intersects with legitimate business, leaving a young man as the ultimate tragic casualty. 24/7 Kettles wasn't just any watch shop. It was a high-turnover boutique dealing exclusively in luxury items, Rolexes, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe. Oliver was passionate about the business, but the prosecution would later argue in court that Oliver saw the good in people, and crucially, he didn't see the bad in the people he worked for. He was the face of the business. That made him the primary target when the robbers showed up. The robbers, later identified as Kyle Mehmet, Michael Holmes, and Mannix Pedro, weren't impulsive. They had cased the shop days earlier, posing as wealthy, respectable buyers. It was a classic organized sting. On the afternoon of May 25th, they returned. They got Oliver to lay out a stunning array of valuable pieces, roughly 70 watches, valued at approximately £1.38 million. As soon as the watches were on the table, the pretense ended. Oliver was violently attacked, put in a chokehold, and zip-tied. The scene was chaotic and terrifying. The watches were swept into a backpack, and the men fled in a waiting, stolen Audi. Oliver, physically unharmed but mentally shattered, managed to free himself and call for help. The watches were gone. The police investigation had begun. But Oliver's real nightmare was just starting. What happened immediately after the robbery is difficult to comprehend, but it is the key to this entire tragedy. Oliver was immediately and intensely distressed. He was clearly tormented by the loss, but his fear was focused not on the thieves, but on his own employers. The court heard that in his state of panic, Oliver desperately tried to transfer his entire life savings, about £14,000, to the business, attempting to somehow cover the multi-million-pound loss. This was a massive red flag to investigators. Why would an employee offer his entire personal wealth to an employer? According to testimony, Oliver told his girlfriend that he had been confronted by someone associated with the business and accused of not putting up enough of a fight. In the cold, clinical world of finance, an accusation like that might lead to a sacking. But in the world of high-level organized crime, it can mean so much more. The humiliation, the terror, and the implied threat were overwhelming. The next day, May 26th, Oliver White was found deceased in a wooded area in Surrey. He had taken his own life. The prosecution later stated that Oliver's death was a direct result of the robbery and the pressure he endured. The police quickly moved to track down the men involved in the heist. Over the following months, Kyle Mehmet, Michael Holmes, and Mannix Pedro were arrested and brought to trial. The convictions came in two parts, with Pedro convicted in early 2025 and Mehmet and Holmes found guilty in November 2025. But the defense team for an acquitted fourth suspect, Junior Kunu, introduced a shocking twist. They claimed the robbery was staged, that it was an elaborate inside job, possibly an insurance scam, and that Oliver White was in on it. This claim was vehemently rejected by the prosecution, led by Edward Brown KC, and the convictions of the three men confirm it was a genuine, violent theft. But the fact that the defense could even raise the idea of a staged robbery hints at the suspicious nature of the business itself. And the evidence that emerged in court suggested that Oliver White wasn't complicit. He was collateral damage caught between two powerful criminal forces. To understand Oliver's intense fear, we have to look behind the shop's clean facade. This is where the story connects to the Irish Mafia, specifically the Kinahan organized crime group. During the trial, serious allegations were made concerning the true ownership of 24/7 Kettles. It was suggested the shop was potentially a front for money laundering, for individuals connected to the Kinahan cartel, one of the world's most sophisticated and feared criminal organizations. The key name raised in court was Maurice Saenz, a notorious figure in the criminal world and a named associate of high-level Kinahan members. It was alleged he was the true power behind the business. And who was the person who met Oliver White right after the robbery, the person who would have delivered the accusation that he didn't put up enough of a fight? That was reportedly Fred Saenz, Maurice's son. Fred Saenz is a convicted criminal himself, known for his role as a middleman in a separate, bizarre, and high-profile heist, the theft of a £4.8 million solid gold toilet from Blenheim Palace. When Oliver White was put under pressure, he wasn't facing a typical boss. He was facing a man connected to an international criminal enterprise. His life savings, the pressure, and the accusation all make sense in this terrifying context. Oliver was a pawn caught between the robbers who executed the heist and the powerful, untouchable figures who allegedly owned the stolen inventory. The investigation secured convictions for the three men who carried out the physical robbery: Kyle Mamet, Michael Holmes, and Mannix Pedro. They are currently awaiting sentencing. But the question remains, will the powerful, shadowy figures who allegedly used Oliver White's workplace as a front ever face justice? Oliver White was a young professional full of potential, who loved his work. He was not a criminal, he was a victim, and his life was tragically cut short, a sacrifice to the dark world of organized crime that operated just beneath the surface of a quiet London high street. His death underscores the true, devastating human cost of these high-stakes criminal ventures.